Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Dmack. Welcome to Dmack's podcast. And today's guest is a very special guest. He's my mentor when I was growing up. He was the guy that led me in the gym at 6 in the morning when I was in high school. He was the guy that exposed me to sand dune workouts. When I graduated from college in the degree of education, he was the one that opened my mind to that. So he had a lot to do with my upbringing and a lot to do with who I am today. So I want to welcome Larry. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Larry Reed, born and raised in Los Angeles, 45 years old. It was definitely a pleasure meeting Davion Mack while I was the assistant principal at Fireball High School. I definitely still remember that story where I told you to meet me at 6 in the morning. The next day we get in the gym and I pulled up at 5:55 and you was already sitting on the stone.
hmm Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about how basketball was for you growing up. So how was basketball back then compared to how it is now? Like, what do you think it was really different? Is it a big difference in how it was before when you was growing up and what you see now, how kids play on the playground?
Um, I think the game was just a little bit more physical back in the day, but that's just because the rules of basketball allowed more physicality.
hmm
Um, I think the kids now are way more skilled and more athletic than we were back in the day. Um, so I think today's players, man, if they can piece up the skill work and athleticism with having that hardcore grind, man, I think they definitely going to be better than what we was in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. So when you was in high school, where'd you go to high school?
I went to Washington High School right there in Los Angeles city section.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I had a unique story in high school. My parents put me in school very, very early. I started school at 2.5 years old because my parents couldn't afford daycare. So I started pre-K at 2.5. Next year, I went on to kindergarten at 3.5, and I just kept going to school. So my senior year in high school, I was only 16 during the 12th grade during the basketball season. But it actually ended up being a huge benefit for me because due to my age, I was always shorter than everyone that was already in my grade. So I thought I needed to learn how to play the point guard. So I developed a nice little basketball handle and a high basketball IQ. And I just kept stretching and stretching, and I turned into a 6'5" point guard when I got to college.
So how was your high school experience? Like, was your teammates really good? Did you have like a good coaching staff? Was y'all winning a lot of games?
My basketball experience in high school was a pleasure, man. Um, I grew up around kids who just loved to stay in the gym. We had this after school program director. His name was Daryl Lott. He basically had the gym and the weight room open Monday through Thursday and Saturday and Sunday. And he encouraged us to get to the gym and work out and play. So we would hoop all the time. Our coaching staff would show up and kind of pop in and out the gym just to make sure they caught a glimpse of who was working out.
Mhm.
Um, I was blessed to play with some very, very talented kids. Um, my mentor in high school, someone that I tried to emulate, his name was Isaac Burton. He went on to play at Arizona State University. He had offers from Georgetown. Um, he almost made it to the league. He played overseas in Australia. He had a Nike contract. So I just grew up around people like that, man. I just try to emulate my game after theirs. And I always tell people, man, sometimes second place ain't bad, depending on who finishes first.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a real benefit because you said in high school the gym and the weight room was open a lot, and I think that's a real benefit for the gym to be open like that because nowadays I don't think gyms are that available, especially with COVID and everything going on. But do you think that helped you in your transition to college, like being in the gym all the time and being able to lift weights? Did that help you translate into college?
No, absolutely. And probably the biggest part was just, man, um, my parents wasn't really into sports like that. So they always allowed me to go to the gym, but they hardly ever really took me. So if I wanted to go to the gym, I had to take that mile walk by myself. And I knew I had to take that mile walk back home. So it just taught me, man, how to grind on my own independently. Sometimes you got to have some internal fire.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when kids get handed too much, they expect a lot. So I think that was the biggest benefit for me, man, just learning how to get up there and back by myself, walking through gang neighborhoods, knowing I had to keep my head low and keep that basketball in my hand unless they was going to sweat me and ask me what set I was from.
Yeah. So talk to us about like what happened after high school. After you went to Washington, what happened after that?
So my senior year at Washington High School, I finally made the varsity team. And when we was doing preconditioning, our head coach, Dave Johnson, he signed with Montana out of high school, but he ended up dropping back down to Sonoma State. And so he knew how young I was, but he also knew how skilled and talented I was. So he invited his alma mater head coach down to one of our workouts from Sonoma State, and I did pretty well. And the coach pulled me to the side, man. And that was my first offer to Sonoma State, and it just so happened to be, man, I took my first recruiting visit the weekend of the LA City riots. So I saw the riots on Wednesday, Thursday, but I jumped on the plane Friday morning, man, and I got out of here. And I went to Sonoma State. I ended up signing with Sonoma State on a half basketball scholarship, but they was able to piece my half basketball scholarship up with my Pell Grant, my Cal Grant. So I pretty much went to school for free my first year. My experience at Sonoma State was very interesting. I got there, and like I said, I was continually to grow, and my skill set continued to grow. So when I got there, I just went and talked to the coach, and I told the coach, man, I think I'm a little bit better than Sonoma State. Not being arrogant, but I was just very confident in my basketball skill, and I really wanted to be a great basketball player. So he allowed me to redshirt, which allowed me to practice with the team every day. I was in the weight room every day. I was working on my skill set every day. And then I dropped back down to a junior college. Again, I talked to my head coach from high school. He recommended a coach named Ron McClurkin, who had just coached at El Camino Junior College. And back then, Camino Junior College was really, really good in basketball. But Coach McClurkin was going to take over a program over in Oxnard, which was like an hour and 15 minutes away. So it was a blessing because I was able to go to Oxnard. I was an hour and a half away, but I was very close where I can get back on the weekends to see my family. And there I just blossomed into a decent basketball player. I was top 80 in junior college. I went to a lot of the big basketball camps for JC basketball players, and I ended up signing with Grand Canyon University.
So being like from the inner city and having to deal with, you know, a lot of stuff that goes on in the inner city. Once you got to college, was it like not like a culture shock, but were you surprised about certain things? Like how was it being from the inner city and then adjusting to the college life?
Oh man, the adjustment was crazy, man. You know, coming from the inner city, man, I saved up all my money, man. I went and got me a whole bunch of fresh polos, some fresh pair of pants, some shoes and stuff. So I remember like my first month at Sonoma State, man, I like wore a different outfit every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it would be people like telling me, "Hey, man, you dress nice, you dress fresh." But after a while, about 2 3 months, I started noticing, man, the kids who took college serious, man, they had a pair of blue jeans, maybe a pair of black jeans, and just switched their shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my biggest adjustment, just getting used to fashion was no longer important. It was about your productivity, not so much what you wore. So that was probably the biggest adjustment I had to make.
I think that's the important message because nowadays it's all about fashion. Everybody I know, because I'm still coaching right now, and all my young guys, all they care about is fashion, and they got it just like you. They try to have a new outfit every day, but like you just said, it's more about productivity and not so much about fashion. That's a real important message.
Now, you know, it's crazy. The owner of Facebook, Zuckerberg, he talks about, man, he don't want to use any of his cognitive demand trying to figure out what kind of clothes to wear. So he pretty much wear the same outfit every day.
Hmm.
And he said he saves himself 10 minutes a day just from that cognitive demand of trying to figure out what to put together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I want to ask you, what do you think young players to do? Like, what can they do to reach their full potential? Whether it's with basketball, with school, like, and I know everybody got a different like goals and everything. Let's say, for example, basketball. Some players want to play pro, some just want to play D1, some maybe just want to play JUCO. What can people do to reach their full potential?
I think a big part of reaching your full potential is you actually have to look yourself in the mirror and figure out what that is and what you're willing to strive for. And then once you figure those pieces out, man, you got to write it down. Um, to me, if it ain't written down, man, it's not really a goal, man. It's just a dream. And we all dream. Everybody dream every day. But when you want to establish a goal, you got to think about it. You got to write it down, and then you got to backwards map. Just like in teaching, man, we tell our teachers to develop the test or the exam before they come up with the lesson plan. That way, you know where the lesson plan needs to take you. So I
Mm-hmm.
would just say, man, just write down your goals, be consistent, um, take measurable steps, um, celebrate the small victories until you are able to gain your big victory, um, and give yourself some time. A lot of times we want things to happen within a week, but that's just not how life works, man.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, to end up your basketball career, you went to Grand Canyon University, and I know you played like in the Drew. You played in all the leagues in LA, so you kind of like a legend out here. I've seen your newspaper clips, and I seen some of your highlights. What happened after you went to Grand Canyon? How was that year?
So I did 2 years at Grand Canyon. At that point, upon my senior year, my son was already 2.5 years old. So I just kind of wanted to come back and spend time with him and just become a full time father. I did have some deals on the table. With me being in Grand Canyon, I was in Phoenix, Arizona. The Harlem Globetrotters, that's where they're based out of, is out of Arizona. Um, and so I was offered to have a tryout with the Harlem Globetrotters, but it was their subdivision team. Because they have the big team, the main team that travel to the arenas, but they also have some of the subdivision teams that go to like the local parks and YMCA's and do a lot of community service. Um, and I also had a contract to go overseas and play for $70,000 in the Philippines, but it was a tryout. But at that point, I was just kind of burnt out on basketball. I wanted to be a father, so I just ended up just coming back home, man, and jumping into education.
Mhm. Okay, so first let's talk about how you got into education. What made you want to be a teacher and get into the field of education?
So all the men in my family, my dad, my uncle, my brother, my cousin, my grandfathers on both sides, they all drove trucks. Um, Women on my side in my family, they were all in education as secretaries. So I kind of had a hyper blend of that. So when I came home from school, my mom worked for LAUSD, and she would always have me come up to her school site, and I would go into teachers' classes and just kind of like observe. And I had this one teacher; she allowed me to start taking over some of the lessons. So I did that, and she told me I would probably be a great educator. So I went and put in the application for LAUSD. I actually interviewed at 5 different schools, um, including my alma mater, Washington High School. I interviewed at Audubon, um, and basically everyone told me that I looked too young to be a teacher because at that point I had my head shaved. I was only 22 years old, so they thought I was only like maybe like 19. So I went back to my mom's school, which was Main Street Elementary, and I talked to the teacher again, and she said, "Hey, check this out. I got a friend over in Linwood Unified School District, and they hiring." So, long story short, I went over there on the Tuesday. I dropped off my application. They asked me to come back on the Thursday, and I got hired that day by a lady named Miss Simi Coffee.
Mm. Okay, so it was kind of people around you that kind of motivated you to do that. And I
Yeah.
think also relates to me because I remember when I got to Cal State Dominguez and I got to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I wanted to major in. I just know I wanted to play basketball. And you being my mentor, you kind of suggested that to me. And so kind of what you went through, I also went through. People around me being educators, so that's what made me be an educator as well. So I can say that I'm a firm believer that the people that you hang around, it reflects in your daily life and in your actions. So
I totally agree. I tell kids all the time, man, it's about your power of five, you plus the 4 people you hang around the most. And if you take the average of all five, that's pretty much where you're gonna be. So your power five is very, very important, man. The people you hang around with, man, the interactions you have, the communication patterns you establish, um, that stuff is big.
yeah, yeah. So as you got into teaching, did you enjoy it for like the first couple years? Because I know the first few years are probably the hardest, I would say. Was you enjoying it?
And I love being a teacher. I think that's one of the issues with education today, man. A lot of people that are in administration and or educational leadership, they really didn't enjoy the class, so they just degreed up and got out of the class and and got into leadership. I actually enjoyed teaching. I actually became a teacher coach, um, and then my experience as being a teacher coach propelled me into going to administration. So I took the long road, but I think it paid off because it allowed me to be in district leadership.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So I want to transition a little bit into your personal life. You have said you wanted to focus on being a father. As you started to have kids, did you push them towards playing sports? Like in your heart, did you hope that they played a sport so that you can help them along the way?
No, absolutely, man. My son, his mom is 6'1", so I knew he was going to be very, very tall. So I definitely wanted him to play basketball. So what I did from a young age, once he got like 5 years old, I would just take him outside and we would do dribbling drills, um, and then we would do shot builders. Shot builders is we go from each hash mark on the free throw line and just learn how to shoot off the glass, and then just extend your range all the way back around the free throw, um, and then coming back up on the other side. So I just taught him a lot of skill stuff. So that way, when he was and the want to play basketball, he would already have some skills already up under him.
Hmm.
Um, he didn't actually play basketball seriously until the 10th grade. But once he started playing, his height was equivalent with his skill level, and he blossomed into a Division I basketball player. So that was a real blessing.
Hmm.
And then my three daughters, I wanted them to play basketball, but my wife at the time, she didn't really want that to happen for my girls because of the culture of girls women's basketball. Um, so we pushed them towards track and field. I have three daughters. Two of them run track and field at a very high level, and I have one daughter. Basically, she ran down the track slow for 2 years on purpose. So our thinking was, if this ain't what you want, man, let's just pull you out and put you in a space where you're comfortable. So we just pulled her out of track, and we let our other two daughters continue to run track and field.
Hmm. And how are they all doing now?
Everybody's doing well. Um, like I said, Philip, my oldest, he's my son. He's 6'10". He ended up winning the state championship in high school. He signed with Hampton University. Um, his second year at Hampton University, they actually won the MEAC conference championship. So we had a ring from that. He was able to cut down the net. They went to the NCAA tournament. They had to play in the first playing game, so they won the playing game, and they went on to play Kentucky, and that was the year Kentucky was undefeated. And they ended up losing to Kentucky. But he had a great experience while he was in college, and then he transferred out. He came to live in California, and he played at Cal State San Bernardino. And he actually walked away from a full scholarship, leaving 1 full year still on the table because basketball just was never his passion.
Hmm.
My two girls are doing pretty well in track and field. One is at the University of Oregon. Um, she was a high school All-American in track and field, and she was actually a college All-American in track and field as well as a freshman. Um, she's a real hard worker. She's dedicated to track. Um, she's more of an outdoor track and field runner as opposed to an indoor track and field runner because she always needs to get her conditioning set before she starts to run really, really quickly. So we're looking at more like May, June. And right now she's training for the Olympic trials. So hopefully she'll run a qualifying time to go to the Olympic trials, which are in Oregon. And then my youngest, I actually trained her this morning. We train 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I get there at 6:20, pick her up, and we work out to about 7:30. She's a long jumper sprinter. She's actually the most athletic, aggressive kid that I have. But she's a perfectionist, so sometimes we have to slow cook some things just so she can perfect it.
Hmm.
But I'm happy because actually today we actually moved up on the plyo box. She's able to jump on a 38-inch plyo box, and she did it 5 consecutive times. So things are looking good for us.
Good, good, good. So being a father, it seems like your kids are in the field of like basketball players, track and field. If you have to give advice to another parent that want their kids to make it to a high level at a collegiate level, what advice would you give them? Because I know it's not easy, like being a father. Maybe that you try, because I see this a lot where parents push a sport on the kid and maybe they don't even want to play. So what advice would you give a parent that want their kids to play sports, but you can't really force them?
Um, I would say just kind of take a step back. One of the biggest things I learned is the best view of anything is a stadium view. A lot of times as parents, we throw up close to the action. We like the coaches. We right there on the field, and it's hard to get a full glimpse from there. So the more you step back and able to see the whole picture, man, it'll kind of give you some insightful information and knowledge about your kid. um, Talk to them frequently, ask them their goals, ask them what they really want to get out of either track and field or basketball. Because at the end of the day, it's just a vehicle to get you to the next step.
Mhm.
Because a lot of us are never going to play on TV, but a lot of us can take the leadership components and the team building components and teamwork from the sport, and become healthy individuals in terms of adults. Um, like I said, I have one kid who don't play sports, and I was perfectly fine with that. She's more into reading and writing stories, so we just put her in the comfort zone where she could do what she really wanted to do.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So at the end of every podcast, I ask my guests these three questions. And these are probably, I would say, difficult questions to answer. Um, but everybody got their own response. So um, I'm anxious to see what your answer is going to be. So the first question is, what do you consider success? Like everybody has their own idea or their own opinion of what success is. And in your own words, what do you consider success?
To me, success is when you can wake up every morning and love what you do. Um, when you have healthy self-esteem, healthy mental health. I think a lot of times we don't talk about mental health, man, and mental health is big. So whenever you can wake up every day and want to do something and feel good about what you're doing, I think that's success. I don't measure success in finance. I don't measure success in career. I measure success in terms of how healthy you feel mentally on a daily basis.
That's big. That's big. I think that's the first time. With all the guests that I've had on the podcast, I don't think anybody has mentioned mental health, and that really is a big thing, especially nowadays with a lot everything going on with media and social media and cyberbullying and all that. I think mental health is really really important. So I for sure respect that answer.
Yeah.
So the second question is, so I'm sure you've seen the movie The Matrix, right? So when Morpheus confronts Neo with the red pill or blue pill, right now, I'm gonna confront you with the same question. If you take the red pill, you'll be exposed to all the truth, all the chaos that goes on in society and in the government. You'll be exposed to all that truth. Would you take that red pill or would you take the blue pill and just, work your day-to-day life, be normal, and not really be concerned with all that deep um those deep truths. I'll call them truths, but because they're hard to deal with. So would you take the red pill or the blue pill?
Every time I'm gonna take that red pill.
Yeah.
Because I'm a true believer in understanding the why, for deeper understanding. Um, because again, when you just learn this stuff and doing stuff on the surface level, man, it's always just gonna be surface level. You're never gonna be able to really dig in. And to me, man, the way a flower grows or a tree grows, they got to dig some roots. So you gotta dig deep. So give me that red pill every time.
Yeah, cool, cool. Um, that's crazy because a lot of people struggle. They be like thinking about what pill, but it seemed like you knew right off the back. So that goes to show that that's a true, like that's a real answer from your heart. You ain't even think about it. Um, so the last question I got for you, it's not really a question, it's a statement that I want you to leave to yourself in the future. So if you watch this video in 5, 10, 15 years, what message would you want to leave for yourself to hear?
Um, Remain consistent. Um, Always set goals based off your dreams. Um, and understand the why. I think again, man, the importance of understanding the why is how you're able to get to any dream or any goal, because it just gives you that food fuel to the fire, and it's just a deeper understanding of what you're trying to get to.
Cool, cool. Well, that's all the questions I got for you today on the podcast. I really want to show my appreciation to you for joining the podcast. So thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it I really thank you for having me, man. It's been a goal of mine for us to sit down and chop it up, man. We're gonna do so in the future. But I think the message is important to get this out, man, to so many parents, so many athletes. They just need as many testimonies as possible to figure out they can do it. Again, all the sports is just a vehicle. But to me, any athlete who's able to thrive in the classroom and on the field, I think that just puts them one step ahead of regular individuals.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And just a word of advice that I want to give to my viewers is Larry was my mentor, so it really helped me a lot. When I had any questions or when I needed some guidance or even just some discipline, he was really there for me all the time. And I remember this all the time. Like when you was in the gym with me, we played one on one. You would kill me, and I didn't really have a father figure. I didn't really have like a big brother that played basketball. So you was that guy for me. So anybody that's pursuing basketball, I would advise y'all to get a mentor or somebody older than you. And I prefer better than you, um, just so they can help you on your journey through basketball. Because I think that's really, really, really important. So I want to thank you, Mr. Reed, for taking all the time out that you did to help me get to where I am today.
Oh no, man, that's what basketball is, man. It's a family, it's a network. I think you nailed it, man. You always want to be around people that's a little bit better than you. We call it iron sharpens iron.
Hmm.
Um, to me, I thought I was a point guard until I ran into a guy named Alan Cavanis at Oxnard. He was our assistant coach, and basically the same thing, man. He beat me in practice after practice every day for a full year. But one thing I learned how to do is come to a full jump stop and be able to jump up vertically as opposed to jumping forward. And I stopped getting charging calls. So just again, man, just being around people that's a little bit better than you, they're gonna push you. Um, they're gonna talk bad to you. Um, but it's all in the nature of getting better and everyone reaching their full potential.
Yep. Yep. Well, again, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. For all my viewers, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys staying through the whole video. And be tuned with what I got coming up in the future. I got a lot of podcasts from people that you guys already know if you've been following me for a long time. A lot of people that I post on my Instagram that I've been training for a long time. They'll be on the podcast really soon. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.